Kendrick Lamar, the voice of a generation. In the heart of Compton, California, where sirens blend with lullabies and gunshots punctuate conversations, a boy sits quietly in the corner of a cramped apartment. While other kids play outside, he watches. He listens. He absorbs every word, every sound, every story that floats through the thin walls of his world. His name is Kendrick Lamar Duckworth. And in this concrete jungle, where hope seems as rare as silence, he's learning that survival isn't just about dodging bullets. It's about finding your voice in a world that's forgotten how to listen. The year is 1987. Crack cocaine is ravaging communities. Gang colors divide neighborhoods like battle lines. And in this chaos, a 5-year-old boy watches his father struggle with demons, his mother hold the family together with prayers and determination, and his community bleed from wounds that never seem to heal. But here's what they don't tell you about growing up in the eye of the storm. Sometimes the quietest kids hear the loudest truths. Picture this: a boy walking to school past memorial murals, stepping over broken glass that catches the morning light like diamonds. He's learning to read between the lines of his environment, where the safe houses are, which corners to avoid, how to distinguish between celebration and chaos by the sound of gunfire alone. His teachers see potential. His mother sees resilience. But young Kendrick? He sees stories everywhere. In the way his neighbor's eyes dart when the ice cream truck plays its melody a little too slow. In how his cousin's laughter stops mid-sentence when certain cars drive by. In the prayers his grandmother whispers over dinner, as if the words themselves could build walls around her family. They say children are resilient, but what they really mean is that children are observers. They adapt. They survive. They learn to find beauty in the broken, hope in the hollow, music in the madness. By 16, that quiet observer had found his weapon of choice. Not a gun, not his fists. Words, rhymes that cut deeper than any blade, stories that painted pictures more vivid than any canvas. He called himself M.A.A.D then. It was 2003, and this was his shield, a persona that could say what Kendrick Duckworth couldn't. M.A.A.D could talk about the pain without bleeding. He could rap about the streets without getting lost in them. But names are funny things. They carry weight. They create distance. They build walls even when you try and tear them down. M.A.A.D was protection. But protection from what? From being too real? From being too vulnerable? From letting people see the scared kid behind a confident facade? The streets of Compton had taught him that vulnerability was dangerous, that showing weakness could get you killed, that the safest way to survive was to become someone else, someone harder, someone colder, someone who could navigate the darkness without drowning in it. But here's the thing about hiding behind a name. Eventually, the real you demands to be heard. And Kendrick Lamar was clawing his way to the surface, carrying with him every story his community had whispered in the dark. The transformation wasn't instant. It was violent, beautiful, necessary, like a butterfly fighting its way out of a cocoon made of trauma and truth. There's a moment in every artist's journey where they stop performing and start confessing, where the mask becomes too heavy, the persona too small, the lie too exhausting to maintain. For Kendrick, that moment came with a simple realization. The world didn't need another M.A.A.D. It needed the first Kendrick Lamar. 2012, the world first heard the name Kendrick Lamar on an album called Good Kid, M.A.A.D City. But this wasn't just music. It was a confession, a movie, a prayer. He took us on a journey through one night in Compton. But really, he was taking us through 17 years of growing up where childhood ends at the sound of the first gunshot you hear in your neighborhood. Track by track, he painted a picture so vivid you could smell the fear, taste the desperation, feel the weight of choosing between survival and surrender. This wasn't just rap. This was American literature disguised as a playlist. But what made this album revolutionary wasn't just its honesty. It was its humanity. In a genre often criticized for glorifying violence, Kendrick showed us the cost of that violence. The sleepless nights, the paranoia, the way trauma shapes every decision, every relationship, every dream. He took the mythology of street life, and stripped it down to its bones. Showed us that behind every thug was a child who learned to survive. Behind every gangster was a son who just wanted to make his mother proud. Behind every criminal was a human being trapped in a system that profits from their pain. And suddenly, the quiet kid from Compton had become the voice his generation didn't know they were waiting for. But success has a way of revealing new demons. Fame didn't quiet the voices in his head, it amplified them. The weight of representation, the responsibility of being a voice for the voiceless, the impossible task of staying true to your roots while the world watches your every move. If you're feeling this journey through Kendrick's story, make sure to subscribe. 2015, To Pimp a Butterfly. If Good Kid, M.A.A.D City was his confessional, this was his revolution. Jazz, funk, and poetry collided in a symphony of black pride, self-love, and unflinching social commentary. This wasn't just an album. It was a mirror held up to America's face, forcing a country to confront the reflection it had been avoiding for centuries. He rapped about survivor's guilt, about the weight of success in a world that profits from black pain, about finding beauty in the struggle and strength in the scars. This was therapy disguised as hip-hop, healing disguised as entertainment. But this album did something even more radical. It demanded that America look in the mirror. Every track was a question the country didn't want to answer. Every verse was a truth the system wanted to ignore. Every beat was a heartbeat that refused to be silenced. This wasn't just music about black experience. It was a sonic reconstruction of what it means to be human in a world that constantly questions your humanity. It was a love letter to his people and a battle cry against their oppression. It was art as activism, poetry as protest, music as revolution. But with great power comes great scrutiny. The higher he climbed, the more the world demanded pieces of him. The more he gave, the more hollow he felt inside. 2017, Damn. The title said it all. Damn the pressure. Damn the expectations. Damn the weight of being everyone's savior when you're still trying to save yourself. This was Kendrick at war with himself, wrestling with pride and humility, love and hate, faith and doubt. Each track was a battlefield, each verse a victory or defeat in the ongoing war for his soul. The world called it genius. Critics called it groundbreaking. But Kendrick? He called it survival. Because sometimes the only way to stay sane is to let everyone hear how close you are to losing your mind. This was more than an album. It was an exorcism. Every track was Kendrick wrestling with a different demon. Pride, lust, fear, love, loyalty. Each song a chapter in the ongoing battle between who he was and who he was becoming. But here's what made Damn so powerful. It didn't offer easy answers. It lived in the questions. It existed in the contradictions. It found truth in the tension between faith and doubt, between strength and vulnerability, between the sacred and the secular. Then came the silence. 5 years of it. The world waited, wondered, demanded. But Kendrick had learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is disappear to find yourself in the quiet spaces between noise. When he returned in 2022 with Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, he brought with him something the world wasn't expecting: vulnerability. Raw, unfiltered, uncomfortable vulnerability. This wasn't the voice of a generation anymore. This was the voice of a man, flawed, healing, human. He talked about therapy, about generational trauma, about the weight of being a role model when you're still learning how to be a person. And in that vulnerability, he found his greatest strength. Because the most revolutionary thing you can do in a world that demands perfection is to show up as you are, broken, beautiful, and brutally honest. From that quiet kid in Compton to the voice that would shake the world, Kendrick Lamar's journey is more than a success story. It's a testament to the power of staying true to your truth, even when that truth is complicated, uncomfortable, and completely human. He showed us that hip-hop could be literature, that pain could be poetry, that trauma could be transformed into triumph. But more than that, he showed us that the most powerful voice you can have is your own, unfiltered, unapologetic, and undeniably real. In a world full of noise, he taught us to listen. In a culture of surface, he showed us depth. In a time of division, he reminded us that our stories, all of our stories, matter. This isn't just the story of Kendrick Lamar. It's a mirror to our world. And if stories like this speak to you, don't just watch, subscribe. Because the next chapter is always around the corner.
For pay, and you astronaut niggas just crowd in my space. Look, you're not in my atmosphere. You can act like you here, but actually you ain't accurate fucking with this music biz. The industry like fuck it, let the music be his. No theme park. I'm not trying to amuse you kids. Small shark, Joss is here, jump in the water. Do we really fuck with President Carter? My reply is that I can't.